So, welcome again, everyone, for those who just joined, and thank you for being here today and this evening. I really appreciate it. I want to start by really expressing my gratitude to Steo and particularly to Natalie for organizing this webinar. We all know that Steo's had some invaluable work across Ontario and has supported countless teachers. So we're really thrilled to collaborate with them on this project and future projects. I'm sure we're going to have many. Today's session, what we are going to do is we're going to supercharge your STEM classroom using engaging simulation. And this is designed particularly with elementary teachers in mind. But if you're teaching other grades, don't worry. What I will do is if you let us know that you are above grade 8 or, if you're even in university, we sometimes have those teachers. Don't worry, I'll try to tailor it a little bit for you. So the question some people ask me when I choose topics, particularly topics around STEM, I'm asked why. Well, why this topic? It's very simple. Today's students are immersed in technology, both inside and outside the classroom. It has really become a natural, integral part of their lives. Us teachers, if we're able to integrate technology into our teaching, we then can create more engagement and more learning and more interactivity. And our teaching will be, of course, much more impactful. So this is the reason why we choose this particular topic. It's how we can make our students really ready for tomorrow. So today we're going to look at what STEM is very quickly. Maybe you've done STEM before. If you have, please let us know. Please type it in the chat box. If you've ever used simulations, we're going to kind of go over it. That's going to be the very quick part. The part we're going to spend most of our time is hands-on activities, and then we'll show you how to create a STEM project. And when we create a STEM project, basically you take knowledge that you've developed in the classroom and you apply it. So we'll explore really the role of Gizmos simulation in supporting and implementing STEM education. And of course, stay tuned at the end because I want to talk to you about the Gizmos Global STEM Competition. It started a couple of years ago. Last year, we had a team from Canada made it all the way to the finals, and we're hoping that we're going to have more teams in the finals this year. We'll stay with us. We'll talk about it at the very end. So when I started looking into STEM, one of the first sentences that I saw, that one of the first, if you want, citations I read was this one, that we're currently preparing students for jobs that don't yet exist, using technologies that haven't been invented in order to solve problems we don't even know are problems yet. And I thought that was absolutely true and real. And of course, when you think of what we just went through a few years ago with COVID, when we started doing these sessions, that is absolutely true. And as I was looking deeper, and there are lots of statistics here on your screen, so please we'll send you a copy of this, by the way, so you don't have to take screenshots. But these statistics really impacted me. One of them, I haven't put there, but we found that 50%, researchers found that 50% of students that graduate from high school don't have the STEM knowledge necessary today in order to go into these other jobs, to access those jobs that we need in the STEM field, which, as you can see here on my screen, are really what's growing in the future. So students lack the knowledge and skills required to obtain those leading positions. How can we change that? So this is kind of where we are with this particular area. And if you're in a classroom that is an elementary classroom, for me, the biggest takeaway was this one. 92% of boys and 97% of girls will lose interest in STEM if they're not immersed in it before 5th grade. So imagine all the power that you have to change lives if we're able to make students truly engaged with STEM early on, as early as 5th grade. After 5th grade, I'm not saying they're not going to be interested in, but we really truly need to get them in before. So we know that each of you understands that today, more than ever, science and STEM education is critical. It's a must for all students so that they can develop those 21st century skills. And we want them to do it through authentic learning experiences. So again, keeping that real world approach here. So as we think about STEM, we're like, what is STEM? Okay, what is STEM? What does it really mean? We use it all the time. Sometimes we hear STEAM, sometimes we hear stream. How, what is it really? And so this is my definition. This is the definition I really like. STEM is based on the idea of educating students in four specific disciplines: science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and doing it in interdisciplinary and applied approach. So rather than teaching each of the four disciplines separately as discrete subjects, what we do is we integrate them into this cohesive learning paradigm that's based, very importantly, on real world applications. I like that because it allows my students to understand why I'm teaching what I'm teaching. Right? The main concept, of course, is that integration. It can be tricky, but it is going to give you a lot of different advantages. STEM education is going to allow you to develop those 21st century skills because it's going to encourage critical thinking. It's going to encourage problem solving. It's going to promote communication, collaboration. It's going to stimulate creativity and innovation. Those students that are working in a project, they're going to learn to work in teams. They're going to use modern technologies, and they're going to tackle complex challenges in a very methodical and creative way. So by combining these four elements, STEM is going to prepare students for careers of tomorrow and real-world issues. And think that the simulations we're going to be using today were created 25 years ago. Think of what your phone looked like 25 years ago. And simulations were already here. And that gives us a leg up on using simulations for STEM ahead of everyone else. Because think about it, today we're really moving from a teacher of culture to a teacher of teaching culture. So we're moving from a teaching culture, to a learning culture with a clear shift towards inclusive, data-driven education. That's another important piece. We need to get data on our students, tell us how they're doing, whether they're working at home, they're working in the classroom, and we want to know when they're online, because online has to be purposeful. It cannot be all the time. It has to be a short period of time, has to be purposeful and efficient. What are they doing when they are online? Do they understand what's happening? It is not about memorizing at all. It's about understanding what's happening in the real world. So simulations are perfect to promote those 21st century skills we talked a lot about and address gaps, whether it be in math and science. And more importantly, for me as an educator, I think it's a growth mindset development that's important. You can always teach a content. However, if the mindset of your student is not there, if your student has a fixed mindset, it's going to be very hard for them to be interested in exploring scientific phenomena and taking chances to creating a hypothesis. And what simulations are going to help you with is transforming these abstract concepts into very rich, interactive visual content that's going to allow your students to, for example, modify parameters, values, observe the effects. And what if you could also track student progress and get feedback to them in real time? And of course, we like that. We like to use simulations because there's a little bit less chemical, material that we don't have to worry about safety. We don't have to worry about, always having them play with them, particularly when those students don't have the necessary lab skills. And we also have very limited equipment, especially if you think about, for example, creating a circuit with all of the electrical equipment. Some of the equipment could be very expensive. And if they burn those light bulbs, well, sometimes we have very limited resources. And as teachers, you all agree, we're being asked to do more with much less. That's where the simulation come in and help take some of that heavy lifting for us. And on top of that, you'll be able to really complement your labs in a much more effective manner. So for those of you who have never seen what Gizmos are and don't know what they are, there are over 550 online interactive simulations. They're only focused on math and science, and they're great for experimentation, exploration, and they're all inquiry-based. Now, the great thing about them also, they're fully aligned to the Ontario curriculum, whether from grade 3 all the way to grade 12. And you'll see that they're going to develop these lifelong learners because students are going to be super excited to come in and explore. And it's interesting that you are all in elementary here because, for example, just to let you know, in Alberta, they've just adopted 3 years ago Gizmos for all their K to 6 schools. So they're being used heavily in elementary. So if you're in any of these grades, and of course, if you're 7 and up, you probably already have access to Gizmos, but in the lower grades, you will definitely benefit from it. And as I said, it's been 3 years. We're going on to our 4th year working with Alberta, with specifically K to 6. A lot for you to choose from. Now, when you're using these virtual simulations with our Gizmos, what you're creating is real life scenarios. You're providing a lot of time for students to run an experiment and repeat it. Think about it. Sometimes, we do our lab and we have limited time. We have to exit the lab. And maybe the student didn't have defined motricity skills to properly connect all of the, remove the sheaths from the copper wiring and connect it all together, for example, or maybe he doesn't really know how to use a pipette, or maybe he's trying to run some of these experiments and it's too much. And it takes the 45 minutes, or maybe the equipment is broken, which would happen to me. And so now we haven't really learned anything. So imagine instead if you can explain challenging concepts and procedures before, have them practice online, and then get them to go do it in the lab and come back out and engage students at their own pace. So you'd reduce some lab costs and really use less equipment overall and maximize learning. So you're going to reinforce those key concepts that are aligned and targeted to skills in Ontario. And you're going to support development and knowledge and the reasoning abilities, problem-solving skills, and even the aptitudes of students so that they can really become more productive, what we call engaged citizens. So let's take a look now at Gizmos. Before we move in, I'm going to keep the screen on for a couple of seconds to give you that special code that we have here for you. So if you don't have access to Gizmos, when you talk, I'm going to show you how to log into Gizmos in just a second, but take that code, STEO EL90. STEO EL90. It's a very simple code to remember. This code will give you full access to all Gizmos for 90 days. I see that there might be questions in the chat box. Natalie, are there anything that we need to comment in here, or I can move on? Not sure. So I will move on, but let's just take a look at here. You've got the website here for Gizmos. If you want to go to gizmos.explorelearning.com, and that's your special trial code. So I'll show you how we go there and how we function with it. So let me take you there, and I'm going to open a Gizmo here, my Gizmo account here. It won't be long. Let me just move this here and just open a clean page. I have way too many open browsers, as you can imagine. So your way of going is going to be through here. So we're going to go to Explore Learning through Gizmos, and you're going to sign up for free. On this page, when you sign up for free, it'll ask you to put your email, and it'll send you an email confirmation that it's you and that you're over 18, because we really do not want underage children unless you give them access to get access. And you don't want them to have access to all the answer keys anyways. So once you create your account, you'll get an email. And to activate your account, it'll ask you if you have a promotional code. So make sure you enter that promotional code there. One of the fast ways to access Gizmos, if you have an account, is to click on go-el.com. It'll take you to this screen here, and it'll allow me to come in as the teacher into my classroom. So I'm just going to make sure that you're able to all join me here. If you do have an account, do join me. We will be able to work together on some of these simulations. So when you log in, you'll click on Gizmos, and where it'll take you is to this new platform. Maybe some of you have seen the old platform. This is a brand new platform that you're going to have access to, where we're moving everybody to. And that platform has a lot of cute little things that you can really use, and it's really much nicer and cleaner. One of the things that you always have access to right down bottom on the screen here is this help that's open 24 hours. It actually, we've integrated AI in our support. And if you don't like what the AI says, well, guess what? You can always get a human being. But in my classes, as you can see here, I have a number of my classes, and I've got different gizmos that I have maybe looked at or they're recommended. And now I can either browse my Gizmos library, look what's recommended for you. Now, I happen to be living right now in Virginia, but if you're living in Ontario, you'll see your Ontario standards. Let me show you how we go to them. You can go from here, or you can look at Explore, and we can look by academic standard. And again, we're going to change from Virginia to Canada. And if you want to see what's happening in Ontario, right there. And what we've done is we've aligned it for you. If you align these simulations, if you align the curriculum to the simulation, then you don't have to worry as to whether you're teaching it. I'm going to put that code back again for a second, and then I'll come back. Yes.
We have a question here.
Yeah.
So Andrew's wondering, for those people who have old expired Explore Learning accounts and that they know, is there a way to link the code to that account?
They would, if they want to be on the new account, I can try, and they would have to email me. I would have to do some work on the back end. If they can email me, I'll see what I can do. If you want to keep your old account, this code will take you to the new platform, but the old platform is still functioning, right? If you want to keep your old account and you just want to be able to use it, email me, because I have to do some work. Like, I have to basically get it done, override it. And so I can do that, no problem.
So your email will be present at the end of the presentation. Yeah. So I would suggest that if you're having trouble logging in because you once had an old one, then make sure, and we'll also include that in the follow-up email when we get there. But just email Suzanne and she will look after you.
We'll take care of it. We'll take care of it for you. No problem.
Get linked. Okay. So if you send her the email that you do have your account under all of that jazz, and she'll look after it.
Absolutely.
And then Kelly, the same thing, your question about how much does it cost for school to purchase Gizmos, that would be something that you can reach out to Suzanne and she'd be happy to discuss that with you. Okay.
I mean, you'd be surprised. We'd need to find out which school board you're in. Maybe your school already has a license. So we have almost every school board in Ontario. So we just need to look exactly where you are. Almost every school board has Gizmos. Most of them are 7 to 12. Some of them are 3 to 12. So we just need to see where you are. So just reach out to me with those questions, and I'll send you to the right person will email you and give you the information.
Yeah. And all right. Yes. And just one last thing. Yes. Just since we will be recording the session, it is being recorded, and we will share that with you in the follow-up email, and it will also be posted under the webinars section on the membership site if you're a member, so you'll be able to access it there. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, so let's go find some Gizmos. How about that? All right, as we look here, we've got math on one side, science on the other. If you teach, you see we keep all of the previous versions. So, what was adopted in 2005, 2007, 2008, the new curriculum adopted in 2022. So you can still go look at the old curricula if you want. But let's say you're in grade 5 and you're teaching science. Since we're talking about science, you can see here, got your STEM skills and connections, you've got the entire curriculum, and then we connect to that particular topic. Some Gizmos will cover multiple topics, so you'll see them here under different formats. So whether you're working on phases of water, properties, earthquake, anything you want to see, you'll see here, energy conversion. So we can just click on a Gizmo and go ahead and work with it. So that is one way to look for a Gizmo. Another way is to grade and topic. So general grade and topic. By book, if you use any particular book, like maybe you're using a Pearson book. Okay, so maybe you're using a Pearson book in grade 3, Elevate Science. So then you're going to see it here. If you have a book that you don't see in here, reach out, we'll add it. But that's not a problem. And then my favorite way of looking is, of course, by keyword. Since we were looking at circuits earlier, let me show you one about circuits. So all I have to do is put a keyword, circuit, and then you come up with all of these gizmos about circuit. So one of the things we can do is click on the simulations. I'm just going to show you this one very quickly, then we'll move to a couple of other ones. So in here, when you land on these pages, they all are the same. You've got your teacher guide, your answer, your student exploration sheet, your vocabulary sheet, and your answer key. And you'll see here, we even have versions in French of all of this. So if you see French, Spanish language versions, that means that the translations are there in those languages. You've got your objectives here. So a lot of words, right? When we're doing circuits, important in STEM, when we're starting to do this, to start using this language, this vocabulary. So we start in here, and as you can see, the beauty of these simulations for a lab is how quickly I can create a circuit. So let's say I want to create a circuit. Remember how much time, if you were to time me, how long it would take me to do this in real life, this would be a lot more faster, right? So if we were to just put a light bulb and we can show us students and do this, clearly we're not going to get anything. There's no power source. So we can take that battery and put it in here. And, some students like to play around and start putting extra batteries. Well, we can until we burn it out, and we don't care if we burn it out. Right? If we do this and we burn it out, that's fine. We can just replace the light bulb like this, very cheap. So anyways, let's do this. Let's put even a switch for fun, and we can turn on and turn off. Now, why I like simulations? I can start seeing things that I wouldn't be able to show them in the classroom right away. Imagine if they could do this before going to the lab. We can show them the conventional current and the electron flow. So things that it's hard for them. It's a bit abstract, right? So then I want to maybe talk about insulators and what material is an insulator and what material is a conductor. Well, if I were to take a piece of wood and connect it into the circuit, it would be a bit hard to do in real life. We could do it. Right away, we can start seeing what happens. So the inquiry is going to happen where we say, can you make a prediction as to whether silver is going to be a conductor or not? And when we connect it, and I let go of my mouse now, and it shows that it's a conductor. How about glass? What do we think is going to happen with glass? So you can see where students are going to start looking, maybe doing all this work, iron, and they might be able to come up with what's happening here in this particular simulation. How can we take it to the next level? What can we do here, right? So before we go there, we want to show you the lesson material. This is what I think, again, as an educator, saves a lot of time. I can open it in different format. I'm going to open it in PDF today just for speed. And what we want to see here is this. So you're going to have the objectives, the vocabulary, scaffolded activities. How many of us are trying to do differentiation in the classroom and we don't always have the time? But here it's going to be differentiated. It's going to be activity A, the simplest, and as I move in, B and C, more and more complex. How do I introduce that concept? Well, we give you some ideas here. You can use them if you'd like. Then once we do the activities, we want to go back and have some critical thinking. Remember, we're trying to develop those 21st century skills. We want to start developing some questions here where we see that the students actually understood another way, another formative assessment that we can run with our student in small groups and large groups, individually. And then we want to kind of give them another activity they can run. If you want, you can run it. Scientific background, a real world connection. As you can see here, we have a very important real world connection that we can make so they can see why we're teaching what we're teaching and where else can I take it. Some vetted, curated web resources and other gizmos. Maybe we want to go to a more advanced gizmo at this point, and we want to look at something where we now have an ohm meter, an ammeter, and all of that we can work with in some fuses. So those would be where we would go. The student exploration sheet, and that model, by the way, is everywhere the same. Wherever you go, that's what you'll see. When you go in, again, the work is done for you. At best, you can open it in Word, you can open it in a Google Drive. As you can see here, we have different options for you in a Google, in Word, or in PDF, which means you can modify any way you want. And when you open it, you can change it, remove sections that you don't want, add sections, but everything in here is inquiry-based. The first question that we have here, the first inquiry we have, is what materials will close a circuit? This is a structured inquiry, which means you can modify it again. Do you want to make it more of a confirmation inquiry? Do you want to make it more of a guided inquiry? So those are your choices. You want to translate this to, you've got students maybe that are of different languages. You can drop this in ChatGPT. It'll translate it for you in 3 seconds. Then you'll have a document in whatever language that you want. But we've done the professional translations on our end and put it in there. So you'll have it at least in French if your school is a French immersion. Again, the activities are always set up with guided, like let's observe, let's explore, extend your thinking, compare. This is not about just getting the content, it's about getting the skills. So as you start exploring these concepts with Gizmos, you'll see that the students will develop certain skills. The reason I'm starting with this one before I go to a project is I want to show you a couple of more things quickly, and then we'll go into a full project with Gizmos. I want to show you another one that would be another type of Gizmo that you may not have seen before. These are called STEM cases. And if I click on the word STEM cases like this, I can actually find them. Another way to look for them is in the Explore section here. When I go by, let's say, grade and topic or anything, I have a section called STEM cases. What are STEM cases and how will they help you? Well, STEM cases were created to allow students to take on the role of a STEM worker. As we want them to be excited by STEM, we want to give them as early as possible the chance to explore what these jobs are like. And STEM very often is considered just a rocket scientist. Well, no, STEM is everywhere. Almost, like I said earlier, almost 90% of the jobs nowadays require some STEM skills. So here we're giving them a chance from elementary to middle to high school, even university level, to come in and do some of these activities. So if you want to look at like the first one here, as you can see, this is a great STEM case. It comes in for elementary and middle school, so you can have 2 versions of it depending on the grade. And this is a great STEM case. What are you going to do here? You're going to get a letter from a farmer in Africa who's having problems with elephant because the elephants are eating her corns and cotton crops. The student takes on the role of a wildlife biologist, and they're going to learn about animal group behavior and relationships of elephants and humans and bees. Then they're going to collect data from the farms, and they're going to hypothesize and test solutions that will protect the crops without hurting the elephants. So if you ever have a chance to take a look at this, and you'll have access to all of that through the simulation, you'll see here, we're going to start with some background knowledge. This is the background of the story. Then we're going to come in and we're going to start learning some content. So the system is teaching it. Once they teach the lesson, then you can see what they'll do is they'll go back and start, of course, learning about all of the keystone species, etc. Then once they learn the content, one thing they'll be able to do is go back and analyze what happens. So I'm going to give you a preview here. It's a big problem, actually. This problem exists everywhere around the world, not just in Africa, but it's a problem where the elephants are eating those crops. Now, it turns out that the way that the group behavior is set up, those elephants are really deathly afraid of bees. One of the reasons why, and you'll see it through, is that the bees get into their trunk and sting them inside of their trunk. And really, it's very painful. So as soon as they hear the buzzing noise, they get scared. And what we realize is that when you can see here the cotton crops are there, but once we start figuring out that in reality what we need is to put beehives right around the right around the crops, and then then they have to do some math, they have to use some fraction knowledge, etc. All of that is being used here, and then they'll be able to figure out where to place those beehives, save the animals, the plants, save the plants for our farmer, and on top of which now our farmer has honey that they can sell. And as they do all of this, what I think is fascinating is I'm going to be able to see data on how they work throughout, because there are going to be formative assessment questions throughout. So As you can see, those cases are here. You as a teacher can run through them and explore them. If you assign them to a student, then they have to go through the way that we set it up. But at the end, I'm going to show you very quickly what data would look like. Here's another STEM case where I have some usage. So I'm going to just show you that one. And what you will see is not only how your students are doing in terms of, okay, they answered the first question correctly or incorrectly. And you can see very clearly here in this heat map, red, they got it wrong, green, they got it right, yellow, they got it right, but it took them a couple of tries. And blue, it's where they have to use writing in order to explain their thoughts. So for example, the last question is always like a lab report. And here's what we talk about. Your students are giving the results and you can comment back to them. You can write back to them, not only correct it, but write back messages to them and maybe give them some pointers if they're struggling. You'll get the data kind of in real time and you'll be able to really stop if you see that the whole class is struggling with something. But where I personally find it more exciting than a grade at the end is this section here, where I can start seeing their skills. Now I know, is it just the core concepts that they're struggling with? Or maybe is it data analysis that student 2 is struggling with? How about data interpretation? How about hypothesis and reasoning? How about prediction? How about communicating findings? So it allows me to really figure out what is happening in my student, which question he's unable to respond, and what skill do I need to develop in my student so that he can answer it correctly. In this particular class, clearly I can see that most of my class is struggling with the concept, right? And guess what? I can give them multiple attempts. So I can see all attempts and I can see how they're improving from one attempt to the other. Not only that, but I can see their skills over time. So as they run more and more simulation, Gizmo STEM cases, we can see their abilities developing from one case to the other. And wouldn't that be super helpful for you? I know it would for me. I wish I had that way back then. Honestly, this is one of my favorite ways to develop the ability to solve a problem and a project. But sometimes we want to create our own projects. So I want to take you to a Gizmo, and the topic I want to talk about today is water. So I just put the word water in there. It's going to show me a number of simulations that work with that concept. And so I'm going to let it run and show me what are those concepts that we're covering here. And we're going to go to the water cycle. And one of the things I really like about these simulations, it allows, again, that input from different students. So I'm Canadian, of course, I'm from Montreal. I know snow like nobody else, as you know. And when somebody tells me where water comes from, my first thought is snow. But if you talk for somebody from Florida, they have no idea what snow is. So as we have different students in our classroom that come from everywhere, I really like to hear what they think they know about water. And I'll tell you why in a second we're going to do that. So as I go in here in the simulation, one of the great things I can do very simply before looking at the teacher guide and exploration sheets is to look at what path does a drop of water follow. So for me, it would be snow, right? Like that's what we start. And it gives you information about snow. Syracuse, New York is not far away from where we are in Montreal in a few hours. So we can see about the amount of snow that they have. Then where would my snow go? When I have snow, what do I think of it? Well, I think maybe it goes into the soil. And from the soil, maybe it goes into the vegetation. And from vegetations to person, because we eat some of the vegetation, let's say, and from the person to wastewater, from the wastewater, well, I don't know, maybe it goes into the lakes, and from the lakes, maybe it goes into the ocean, or the rivers, and from the rivers, it goes to the oceans, and from the oceans goes to the atmosphere, goes to clouds, and we get snow again, right? And so we have this very cool path that each student can create about what they have around their path, their water drop. And if you look very quickly at right after the Gizmo, there are also some small assessments you can use. But also in here, what you'll have in the lesson material is that teacher guide that will guide you in every step of the way what you need to do. But before we go there, let me take you back to our project, right? We were talking about doing this gizmos. I showed you a couple of gizmos very quickly. But what if we wanted to write a project with this on water? And here's my water project. My goal is to design an alternative water supply system to a village without running water. How can I do that? How can I create that? Where would I start? So where I would start, it would be by asking a few questions. Maybe how do you use water every day? Name at least 3 ways you use water. Maybe talk about where does water come from? What type of water can you drink? Can you drink salt water? I know the first time I brought my kids to the ocean and they tasted salt water. They didn't particularly like it, right? So to do this, the best thing would be to use like gizmos, like the water cycle we talked about, maybe phases of water, to investigate water sources, talk about the cycle, talk about the phases, maybe even think about in our area, where do we get our water sources? Next part of the project would be to talk to them about the world of water. We know that water is a scarcity worldwide, and it's actually a huge threat to society. According to the World Economic Forum, 1.1 billion people around the world live without access to clean water, and billions more at risk due to very unsanitary conditions. And when we lack infrastructure, we lack ability to access some of these fresh water that's already a very small part of all the water on Earth. So when you think about it, only 2.5% is available. That's a great way to start bringing in something small, like creating a project locally, give them an overview, and then bring it back afterwards to what are the sources of water. Then we bring it back down to the student. This is where we maybe determine that our little village, the water needs based on population, daily water use per person, or other factors. So maybe you want to imagine you're living in that village. How much water are you using today? How much is your family using? Maybe your classroom. And you can identify some constraints, such as what are the resources that you have in the area, maybe geographical limitation, maybe even budget. Maybe do you have access to any natural water resources? This is where we quantify all of that. And then we move into simulating those environmental conditions, simulating the local, access to what do we have access to? We have access to rainwater. Do we use reclaimed water? Maybe we want to use well water. That's, again, the imagination of your students coming in, that creativity taking place, part of those 4 key competencies of the 21st century. And then let them figure out how they want to access it. What kind of quality do they have? What is the appropriate use? If you want to expand it a little bit further, you might even let them do some at-home activity, discussing the water pollution gizmo, and have them talk about how can we investigate water purification techniques for them to understand it. Use something very simple like coffee filter, cotton balls and gauze, maybe have a little bit of dirty water, would be water with soil. They put some soil in or some coloring. If you ever bake, you probably have some food coloring in there. And let them try to see if they can filter that water out and figure out if that water is now safe to drink or not. That's a great activity to bring in the hands-on with the simulation, with the idea of creating that STEM project. And again, you can start building that as you think of it. So when we think of a STEM project, there are a few steps we have to follow. We have to start with a real world problem so that they can look at topics that are important for them, like our healthy planet, energy conservation, increasing food production. And you can look at it as a whole, big concept, and then bring it down to what is interesting and important to you in your backyard. The next piece that is super important is to have that project criteria and constraint. For example, in our water example here, where's the village? What's the geography of that village? What's around it? Is it in the mountain? Is it near the sea? Do we only have access to salty water? What is it that we're doing? And also for our students, like if we want to build a STEM project, we really want to keep our budgets under control and our time under control. Of course, using the engineering design process is a fantastic way to figure out what we can do. And if you haven't had a chance to look into the engineering design process, again, we're giving you all these slides, so you'll be happy to take a look at them. I'll be happy to talk more about this. And when you're about to create a project, one big piece of it is the research. So use Gizmos for that. You already have it at your fingertips. You can, talking about fingertips, we had a great project come in last year about fingerprinting and finding how we can solve the problem of a crime through fingerprinting. And again, you've got multiple options here that you can use Gizmos for. My next recommendation would be to really plan with your student. We have a STEM competition open, and we'll talk to you about it in 30 seconds. But in order to be able to produce the project, we give you a lot of tips. But one of my main tips that I give always is have a calendar with specific goals. Those are going to really help you develop that, apply their STEM knowledge, but in a hands-on practical way, but do it in a timely fashion, because some projects could take on, a year. We don't have always that time. And finally, make sure that you work in team. Teamwork and collaboration is one of those important pieces. And when we work, and as well as communication, as when we work with, let's say, companies that come and talk about, in conferences about what they do, one of the main comment I receive from all of the conferences I attend is that, you know what, our people who come in to work for us, the youngest ones, don't have the necessary skills to communicate and collaborate together. And so we need to foster that early on to give our chance to our students to be successful in this global market. And this is where it's your turn to create a STEM project. To do that, you can come in and compete in the Gizmos Global Competition. So if we go there, we can take you here. It's really a worldwide competition. And all you have to do is use a team, minimum 2, maximum 8, who are going to solve a problem using and taking into consideration an SDG, the Sustainable Development Goals from the United Nations. And if you click on that, you'll see it. And as you can see, you have to start by choosing your region. So we have all over the world. We're right here in Canada. We go to the Canadian place, and we have our own information here. You've got your competition rules, your rubric. If you're interested in participating and need a little bit more information before you make any decision, you can just fill that form here. And then, of course, you can submit your entry. We're going to open entries until March 31st, 2025. And then we'll announce in April who are the finalists. So the first place teams in each category are competing in the Gizmos Global STEM competition against the first place teams from around the world. So if you want to know more, you can, of course, scan this, take a picture, scan this, or I will, of course, send you the links to that as well. Again, very easy way for you to participate. And if you want to just use some of these STEM projects that are already in existence, the STEM cases, but here are some ideas of different projects you can run with Gizmos. And what I've done as well is I've given you a list of long list here of all of the STEM ideas you can run for different grade levels. So again, if you have any questions, reach out to us and we'll be more than happy to support you. And I have different emails here from all of my teams, but because it's an international competition, I put everyone. But if you are in Ontario, you can, of course, reach out to Tyler. But of course, I'll add my email in here for you to reach me anytime. So this is kind of where we are with this. I'm going to take you back here to that code since we were there earlier in case you didn't have a chance to get it. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Suzanne. So yes, we do have a couple of questions in the chat. So first of all, just want to reassure everybody, you will get a copy of the slides. So please don't hesitate. It'll take us a couple of days just to get the recording up and posted and then the slides, but we will send that along. We will also be sending along sort of just a brief survey for you in terms of to give us some feedback about the webinars, so that we'll share with Suzanne and also that we can use for our programming purposes. So please take the time to do that. But we have a very important question, Suzanne, is
Okay.
I've set up my account and I want to use it with my students, but how do my students access the
Okay.
Gizmos? Do they get an access code? Do they have to create an account? Like
So,
how difficult is that?
it's very simple. And again, we have different ways you can access Gizmos, but one of the things you'll see in your accounts are if you're on the new platform, right? The way that you access on the new platform. Let me just show you that. Let's go back to Gizmos in just a second here. Let me open my Gizmos account so you can see. If we go here, this is my class. If you're on the new platform, there's a button that's called Manage Students. If you are there, you click Manage Students, and it'll allow you to add students in different ways. So if you're probably in elementary, you'll have a similar page like me. I have different classes. So I've created a class. I can even go create a new one for you. So you'll have something called My Classes. You add a class, and you name the class Miss Suzanne's class. You can add other teachers if you want them to see what you're doing in your class, if you have co-teachers, and then you add the class. Then you add your students. Either you have a school account, which you add from your roster, or you can import your students from the file. So that means an Excel spreadsheet, name, first name, last name, and that's all you need. Look, it says to here, this is what the formatting instruction, first name, last name. If you want to give a student ID or just an identifier and grade level. If you want to give them the password, hey, you can give them the password as well if you want to set that up. But then you just put that in and upload it. That's it. And then your students will have usernames such as this. So if I go into one of my classes here, let's see. This is one of my classes I was teaching. Student A, I've created an ID for them. They'll have a password and I give them access to Gizmos. That's it. It's as simple as that. Now, I want to show you something. If you're on the new platform, again, you'll have something similar on the old platform. If you go to the dashboard, the first page here, there's an educator hub. You click on the educator hub, you'll have tons of information on how to enable access, how to add student, all of that. If you don't want to look through all of it, there's a question mark here. You can just put your question mark, it'll answer you. You want help from in AI? You click on the orange little headset here and you'll have that help. And on top of that, somebody like we have a number of people in Ontario who can support you. So you can reach out to me. You can reach out to Tyler, who, if you haven't met him, he's a great person that really loves to support his teachers. So there are many, many resources for you. Just email us and we'll take care of it for you.
Suzanne, another question is there anything special we need to do to get on the new platform, or is the default the new platform, or is the default the old platform?
Okay.
No.
So the default for anybody new who's just taking a trial is going onto the new platform. We're planning to move everyone to it next year. It's just we're doing it bit by bit. Yeah, there are millions of users worldwide, and we couldn't move everybody in the same time because we want to be able to support everybody appropriately. So if you're a new user who's not having doesn't have a license, right? You're brand new and you take a trial, you're going to end up on this platform. If you have an old account and you want to keep your old account and I'm able to activate it for you, we have certain rules. The reason I'm asking is we have certain rules in terms of privacy that are very strict. So we, in the last few years, became ISO 27000 certified. And that's the highest level in terms of privacy and security for students and teachers. So what that means is if there's only a certain amount of time we're allowed to keep an expired account. That's why I'm saying email me, let me see how long ago it's been. If it's been too long, I can't really bring back your account. We have to delete those by regulations. If you just finished an account maybe 2 or 3 months ago, we are allowed to keep it at least, I think, 6 months if I remember the rules. So that's what we need to look at. If you are part of a district that already has a license, let us know. And some school boards are already on the new platform, some were on the old one. But some of them have like 2,000-3,000 teachers. And to move everybody, we need to do it really with white gloves. So it's a white glove service where we're moving little by little each account to make sure that everybody gets the support that they need.
Thank you for that. So are there any other questions? I'm sorry, I tried to get oh, no, I think the chat did work, but I think everybody got stuck in the direct messaging. So, but because I just noticed that Lee's actually did a chat to everyone, but everybody sort of was putting it in the, specifically coming to me, but that's okay.
Yeah,
I'm
that's good.
sharing everybody's comments with the whole group. So are there any other questions that you might have for Suzanne?
We're having another session tomorrow for the older grades. So if you have colleagues that can want to come in tomorrow, we're going to do more of a high school focused session. And so please do come in. We'd love to see you again if you want to come back in. And otherwise, please reach out and we'll be more than happy to help you.
So are there any university members? So I think Jim's asking, Jim is actually a professor of one of the pre-service programs at
Okay.
University of Ottawa. So can you talk a little bit about that?
All right, so we do have a special kind of account for pre-service teachers. If you're a pre-service teacher teaching those pre-service students, those are going to be teachers in the future. You already have access for free, so we're just going to get your account activated. All you have to do is send me an email with your, university email address, and then you'll receive a link to create your account where you'll have permanent access to Gizmos.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So I'll leave the chat open. If you still have a few questions, feel free to do that. But in the meantime, I'd just like to thank Suzanne for giving us a really interesting insight into gizmos and a little bit more than how you can, just how you use them, but how you can use them in planning your STEM projects and things like that. And I don't know if you mentioned, and you probably did, but I was probably busy trying to figure out the chat. Um, we talked about, I remember when I used to use gizmos that there was always a ton of resource, like educators can submit their own lesson plans as how they
Yes.
use it. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
not just like there's the Explore Learning one and the recommended, like
Yes.
this is what we recommend, but that there are also many, many workshops or worksheets and things that have been
Yes.
generated by Explore Learning users for
Yeah.
different grades, different,
So
simplified for ESL,
absolutely.
those kinds of things. Are those still there?
Yes. Look where they are. Actually, they're in the
Perfect.
supplementary material right there. You can see you've got the regular material that we provide, and if you scroll down, we have actually gone and cleaned it up on this new platform. And we've gone through, and because some of it can be out of date, etc. So you've got all of the clean ones are right there. And there's another document I want to show you. If you're in the Gizmos Global STEM competition and you go under Canada, I want to show you a little something. If you scroll all the way down, we have a sample of STEM activities here. And what they are is they take every Gizmo lesson and we've created a mini STEM activity you can run with it. And if you scroll down, you can see here, for example, force and fan cards, best for grade 5 science. And you've got a STEM challenge you can run with your students, and you can just print them as it. And we also give you a way for you to guide your student on how to do them. And as you can scroll down, you'll have plenty of those of the STEM activities. And what we used to have them is under each one of the headings, like in the, let's see here, in here. And it was hard for some teachers to find them. So we've combined them into this one document that if you ever want to download, you just go to the Global STEM competition, go to Canada, and if you scroll all the way down, it's right there and you'll be able to download. I think there's like 80 pages of these activities just for you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Suzanne. So again, thank you so much. And I hope everybody takes advantage of the free code and, even just to play and learn and explore the gizmos and think about the possibilities with your students. I think it's a great tool to have and definitely provides you with alternatives when sometimes, you don't have the space or you're concerned for safety or you just want something that's a little bit more engaging than just reading a book and answering questions. So thank you so much on behalf of STEO for offering the
Thank
support
you.
for our teachers. And with that, I'm just going to share my screen a little bit here and just let everybody know. So we will be doing the draw tomorrow. One of the things that if I said, if you belong to some of the school boards, reach out to your science consultant and find out if you do have a Science STEO membership. And then if they do, they'll give you a link and you can use that to register. And it gives you a code and allows you to register for free if your school board does have a membership. And I know Halton and YRDSB for sure. Peel, I do have to investigate a little bit. I know you had a membership, but I couldn't find out exactly just because I'm new and I'm still trying to figure things out exactly what status is. So I'm going to investigate on that. But so if you can't get in because it tells you that you're not a appeal member, or you don't know who, reach out to your science consultant and they will provide you with the information, and then, or they'll get it from me if they do have it. I wanted to just highlight a couple of things. This is as I said, the first of one of our webinar series. We have another one coming up on November 19th. Stay tuned. If you do receive STEO news, there will be details and description. We'll be posting it on social media as well. Another workshop for primary and junior grades. And it's going to be by the Canadian Museum of Nature, introducing their virtual workshops, which are now free for everybody across the country. And they will be looking at how teachers can use these workshops in their classrooms. So how to introduce the activities, how to follow up the activities, and sort of making you aware of the types of things that they do. And they've got a really cool sort of studio where they just zoom right in and show you rocks and minerals and bones and all of those different cool things. So definitely one not to miss out on. So again, please share that, check the STEO news, follow us on social media. So stay connected, because that's where we will be posting a lot of the upcoming webinars for this year. And, hope that you'll follow us and contribute to the conversation. And as I said, when we send out the meeting materials, there'll be a short survey. We would really, really appreciate you to take the time to fill it in and give us some feedback on today's webinar. And there will also be an opportunity for you to let us know what you would like to hear about or to learn about, so that we can tailor the rest of our webinar series to meet your specific needs. So thank you again. Have a wonderful evening, everybody. And thank you again, Suzanne. And thanks everybody for joining.